How you doing? How you doing? What's happening, Renzo Gang? Y'all, I missed y'all. I ain't even gonna lie, I really missed y'all, man. I've been really busy this week. Been working a lot of overtime this week, and cause the holidays coming up. But personally, I don't care for the holidays. I don't celebrate holidays, so we just gonna move past that. Hope everyone's had an amazing day today. Everyone's having an amazing, couple days. I just really want to come up here and just give you guys another real talk, motivational talk. This kind of been weighing on my heart a little bit, so I just want to get on with this one. Had to kind of get this one out. So, Renzo Gang, what I really want to say is this message right here. You guys, please, 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 please. Life is too short. Enjoy your life. You only get one life to live. God only gave us all one life to live. Yeah, I understand, we gotta work, we gotta pay our bills, we gotta make sure we feed our families and everything. But at the same time, you also gotta make sure that you have time for yourself. You also gotta make sure, you're getting your stress level down. Mental health is real, depression is real. I really commend any and everybody who's, going through something. A lot of people have been going through something. Sometimes I go through a lot. Take that vacation. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't work. I'm not saying don't work, but don't work too much to where you selling your soul to your job. Even if it's just doing YouTube. Don't sell your soul to a job. Everybody needs a vacation. Everybody needs a vacation. You know what I'm saying? Life is too short. God didn't just make us to work, pay bills, and die. He didn't just make us for that. He also made a lot of stuff for us, to, just take our mind off stuff, release our stress. Personally, my stress relief not only is YouTube, but martial arts. I'm not gonna lie, I have kind of been reminiscing about, like popping and locking dancing, because I used to want to be, I ain't gonna lie, back in the day, I used to want to, pop and lock and be, like a little street dancer, you know what I'm saying? You know, do what makes you happy. Do what makes you happy. Um, you know what I'm saying? If you got time, take your time out. Take PTO, take your vacation from work. You know what I'm saying? Everyone has got to, take a break sometime. Everyone's got to relax, wind down. Some people, read a book. Some people go out, just enjoy, nature. Some people just wine and dine, sitting, excuse me. There's a lot that you can do out here, keep your mind off of stress. And lately, I ain't gonna lie, this week, even though I've been busy, with work this week, I actually have been in a pretty decent good mood, and it's kind of rare for me to be in a good mood like for a whole week straight. I've been in like I actually been in a real goofy laughing mood lately. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, life is, don't be so serious all the time. You gotta have some fun in life. I ain't saying, be a goofball every single day, but you gotta balance. You gotta balance. Basically what I'm trying to say is you have to have balance with, your life. Balance, your work, you know, take care of your business, but also balance, having fun, taking that stress off. There's always going to be a balance. You don't ever want to lean on just one side the whole time. You always want to just keep that balance, especially when it comes to work related stress or just any type of stress. I understand. It's hard out here. Especially with the economy going on. It's hard out here. There's a lot of us. Still living with mom and dad. We grown. You shouldn't be ashamed of that. Because like, look what's going on right now. You people, like, you shouldn't shame anybody for their living situation. You should never. And also brings me to another key point situation that I want to talk to you guys about. Well, not really talk to you guys about, I'm just want to say it and get it out there. If you find someone that you're interested in, go for it. Don't be scared. Go for who you want. Cause 9 times out of 10, that person may be having the same mutual feelings towards you. You'll never know if you don't shoot your shot. Sometimes everyone's not for you. So I mean, do what makes you happy. If there's one you're interested in, take the time out. Be real with yourself first. Then pursue that person. And number one, be honest. Men especially. Plan some dates. Come to a woman. Being a leader. Lead. Plan some stuff. And yes, and I am taking my own advice. I am taking my own advice. So don't be like, why you ain't taking your? I'm taking my own advice as well. You know, Especially when it comes to women. You know, um, like I said, do what makes you happy. Life is just too short. And life is precious. And you also don't want to leave, this world with any regrets. You really don't. Because I'm telling you, like, you're not getting any younger and time is moving. Time is moving. And I'm 31 years old. I may not look like it, but yeah, I'm 31 years old. And, I don't have that mentality of I'm getting old, but I have that mentality of, you know, I'm not even in my prime yet, but there's a lot out here that I want to do, and I'm still young, and I'm gonna accomplish it. I don't want to spend, my young years, working so hard to where I can't enjoy life. I'm gonna enjoy my life because I refuse to be, I refuse to be a machine and just be killing myself, working myself to death, and not having fun. I refuse. Like for example, this month I had, I actually had four things I planned on doing this month, but and out of the four, I actually had two out of the four done. I went to my college homecoming. I had so much fun, reconnecting and reconnecting with old friends and then meeting new frat. I had a really good time. I really needed that. As much as I work, I really needed that. Also, this month I went to a wrestling event, AEW Blood and Guts, in Greensboro. I had a really great time. I ain't gonna lie, like going to a wrestling event, it really just it just it just brings the young kid out of me. I just forget about all the negativity that's going on in my life and in the world, and then I just go there just to have fun. And then other fans out there, some of us may have a thing is like, with the superstars that we have never seen before or we have seen. A lot of us fans, we have a lot in common when it comes to the wrestling. And I also plan on going to a wrestling convention here in Winston Salem that they have every year around Thanksgiving time. I plan on going to that so I can meet some legends in the wrestling world that I've never met before. And also it's another wrestling event. NXT is actually coming back to North Carolina the first time in like 4 or 5 years. And I've never been to an NXT event, and it's going to be a live house show. I've never been to a house show, so I'm definitely trying to go to that next month. That's another reason why I'm racking up so much overtime because them tickets, they, especially with WWE, they getting up there. But nothing's gonna stop me from going to have fun. And also, I plan on, you know, going to the beach next year for with me and my friends. We're supposed to be going to Fort Lauderdale, and we're also talking about going to South Beach, Miami. And I've never been to Miami. That's probably the only place in Florida I've never been to, and that's something that I want to experience. And also, I'm supposed to be going on a cruise next year because actually next week we're supposed to be leaving, but I won't be making it this year. Last year we went, and I had an amazing time. That was the first time I had actually had vacation in a long time being in my job, and I got to start going on vacation, taking time off of work, enjoying my life. Because you don't want to overwork yourself too much because some people actually have lost their lives working so much. And it just it's not fun, working yourself to death all the time. It's not fun at all. You gotta enjoy your life. And me personally, I want to start enjoying my life. I'm 31 years old now. I never really got to have too much fun in my 20s, and I, I no, I don't want to leave this earth with any regrets. I want to at least, of course, I'm gonna do the right things, serve God like I'm supposed to. But I also want to have fun with my life. I want to be able to walk around, just feeling good about myself. I don't want to be walking around, moping and mad all the time. That's not gonna be me. I've gotten to that point before where I was, walking around just, feel like I didn't have anything, in life. And I'm like, I refuse to be, no offense to the older people, I refuse to be walking around here mad and bitter. I refuse to be like that. And that's not going to be me. That's not going to be me. I'm going to have fun with my life. I understand, we gotta work, to get what we want. I understand that, but I'm not gonna be one of those that work, and not be able to have no fun. I refuse. That's how a lot of stress starts. That's how a lot of depression starts. That's how people, you know, commit suicide. But I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Like I really just had to get this off my chest because I know there's a lot of people out here that work nonstop and don't have any fun. And I just want to tell you guys, like, like I said, life is too short. Enjoy your life. I don't care what it is. If you want to go out, just drive around and, try different foods, do that. If you want to start going on dates with people, just to find your soulmate or just, just do what you want to do. Have fun with your life. Of course, handle business first, but also remember, you got to have fun in life. You don't always just want to just be focused on work, 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 because you're gonna be miserable again, and you're not gonna. Nobody wants to be around that, and I just really hope this message gets out to somebody that's really going through it right now. That's working nonstop. I really hope this message gets out to you because this is weighing on my heart, and I had to kind of get this off my chest. And also, not only sometimes these messages, these real talks, I'm not only trying to spread awareness and make sure someone hears my message. I'm also talking to me as well, because sometimes I have to take I take my own advice, and sometimes I have to like really 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 take my own advice because sometimes I don't want to feel like a hypocrite or nothing. I just really want a lot of us, to just enjoy life. I really, and also I try my best, like with these type of messages that I try to put out there for you guys. I also try to, believe it or not, I also want to just save someone's life. I want somebody to be like, I really appreciate what you do, and you really, save someone, save that person's life. You save my life, and I just stuff like that. It really, gets me going and really gets me, warms my heart up. Because sometimes, like, I feel like when I was used to go through a lot of stuff, like nobody was there for me. So sometimes I feel like I have to kind of reach out to others, because I know someone out there is feeling the same way that I was feeling. And you know, and I hate to say it, but people don't care until it's too late. And that's the honest truth. People doesn't do not care about you till it's too late. Then they would be like, oh, I should have did this. I should have been there. Well, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But I'm here to tell you, I may not know a lot of y'all. I don't know y'all, but I feel where y'all coming from. And if you need someone to talk to, you can message me, or you can just get up under my comments and just talk to me, and I'll try to reach out and get back as much as I can. And if you just want some good laughs, and just want to just enjoy yourself, and forget about everything that's going on in the world, just come to my YouTube channel and just check out some videos. Just unwind, relax. That's what I used to do before I became a content creator. Like, I used to, besides watching wrestling or martial arts videos, I would go to like one of my favorite YouTubers that I follow, watch their videos, try to just take my mind off a lot of negativity. That's what I do. And then what, I'm like, what? That also kind of sparked my interest and got me motivated to want to do YouTube. And the crazy thing is, Renzo Gang, next month will be a year that I've had my channel. January is actually a year that I start posting, but next month will be a year that I created this channel. And it's been a crazy year. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's been a crazy year. And I really appreciate everybody that's been there, watching my videos, supporting me, subscribe to my channel. And it's going to be more to come. It's going to be more to come. But this week, I've just been very busy with work. Like I said before, I'm human like you guys are human. I have a full-time job. So, I apologize to you guys for, not posting a lot this week. That's my fault. And since I only have 3 days of work next week, I'm gonna be putting out some more content, and then I may be going to the wrestling convention Friday. So I still want to put out as much content as I can this week. I got a little more free time to myself, and I can just relax and unwind, and do what I want to do, on my channel. Like I said, I don't celebrate the holidays anymore. I don't. I'm Jewish. Those are pagan holidays. I'm not going to get into that. But like I said, I don't celebrate the holidays. I'm ready for them to be over with. So, things can get back to normal. But I'm loving all this overtime that I'm getting, so I'm saving up, for things to come next year, because I have trips that I want to take next year. So I'm grateful of this overtime that I am getting. But at the same time, I'm not gonna overwork myself to death. I'm gonna have fun with my life. So you guys just have fun with your lives. Do what you want to do. And I appreciate every single last one of y'all for just being here, support me. I thank God for y'all. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for being here, being a part of the Renzo Gang. You feel me? You feel me? But Renzo Gang, I love y'all. I just really wanted to get this off my chest. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Get this video a fat thumbs up. I love y'all. I will see y'all next time. You feel me? Love y'all.